Or we talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon, who's a soldier, who's on the moon.
So on the heels of its 250-year anniversary, the U.S. Army is looking to modernize for 21st century warfare, especially now in response to the Ukrainian drone strike against Russia and Russia's drone strike against Ukraine. The U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll warns that U.S. is not ready to fight against a similar attack. Secretary Driscoll joins us now. Mr. Secretary, you saw what the Ukrainians did. They put trucks, buildings, opened up, 117 drones come out, and they hit predetermined sites and really do some serious damage to the Air Force and bridges inside Russia. Are we ready to protect our country against something like that?
We are working on it. I think the calcified bureaucracy that existed in the Pentagon for the last couple of decades has set us back a lot. Under President Trump's leadership with Secretary of Defense Hegseth, we are actively attacking that bureaucracy. We are getting the dollars that have been spent on things that just will not protect us, and we are reallocating them towards solutions like directed energy and lasers and jamming technologies that will help a lot in the future.
How has war changed since Russia invaded Ukraine, and to see how this is basically drone versus drone instead of tank versus tank?
So we used to say that the United States Army owned the night. Most of our missions would be set up so that our infantry could move at night. We would move our tanks and our Humvees at night. With drones, that just doesn't work anymore. And so what we've started to do is we start to train our soldiers even as early as basic training, like 5 weeks into their time in the Army. They're starting to do it with drones watching them. And then in their after action review, they will watch what do they look like from the sky. And this is just a completely different way to think about moving men, women, and equipment through a battlefield.
The President of the United States went to Fort Bragg, and by the way, he was able to announce recruiting goals are 100% of where they should be. They're surpassing all types. I know Marines were staying with it, but now the rest of the branches have caught up. That must be a good feeling. How is the president received at Fort Bragg? And how is the news resonating with the military community that all the names are going back to their original names before they were changed for political correctness?
I think if you watch the videos of the president speaking before soldiers, like you can see he just has this incredible connection as commander in chief with his army. They were absolutely thrilled when the president made that announcement. You just heard roars across the thousands of soldiers that we had in there listening to him. And I think every single soldier, or nearly everyone I have talked to, remarks how it just feels so different today than it did a year ago, and that they feel like they actually have a leader who wants them to be the most lethal fighting force in the entire world. And that's why these men and women sign up and join to fight and maybe die on our behalf.
So Gavin Newsom foolishly said yesterday, the president's having a parade for his birthday. It's about the Army, and it's about Flag Day, and it happens to be the president's birthday. And this idea was actually brought up by the Army, by General George, when President Biden was president, but it was going to be much smaller. Can you shed light on that?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two things here that just I find preposterous. Thing one is as if the Army 170 years before the president was even born could have lined this up to be his birthday. It is just insanity to me that they are pushing back on this idea that we want to celebrate our 250th anniversary with an entity and a body that has done so much for this nation and that so many people have this incredible connection to. And then the second thing is, to your point, the Army started planning this long in advance because what we believe is this will continue the strength in recruiting and retention that we have as young Americans across the country get to see all of the amazing things that the Army has done, whether it's helping with floods in North Carolina or wildfires in California, or we talked to an astronaut yesterday who's on the moon, who's a soldier, including actually going to war and fighting to defend the freedoms that make our nation so great. We think this is going to be an incredible opportunity for the Army to fill up our pipeline for the years to come. And I find it offensive that anybody is challenging that.
Right. The Army can celebrate the Army. That's what it's about. We cut birthday cake for you guys every year. Here's the president announcing something that really resonated with the men and women who fight. Watch.
We're giving you across the board raise for every single service member in the U.S. Armed Forces. We're giving you across the board, and you deserve it. You know, we spend so much money on things that we shouldn't be spending it on, but I think those days are stopping.
And I think that matters. Obviously, people cheer for pay raises, but it also shows you care.
Absolutely. And the president, right after that remark, also said we're going to put $1 billion into upgrading our barracks. When I talked to him and I talked to the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, we often remark, especially for the Secretary and I, it's our friends that are serving. It is the people that Secretary Hegseth and I were with, whose kids live in these buildings and live in these communities. And the president cares so deeply about this population. And he's been doing an incredible job working with Congress and the Senate to start to prioritize the soldier and their families again.
Absolutely. So when you need you to fight, you're ready, and you feel like the country appreciates you. Secretary Driscoll, thanks so much. Look forward to the details on that budget coming forward. Hope you get everything you need.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
And happy birthday, Army. Meanwhile,